I am not, I think it's recording. I'm not a super Zoom captain. So last time I thought I was recording, and then at the end I was like, wait a second, where's the recording?
I see an
So,
indicator in the upper left side that says recording. It didn't
okay,
announce
awesome.
it, but it definitely shows it.
Okay, cool. So we are recording. So if anybody feels uncomfortable having themselves on a recording that we're going to share with the rest of the school, please feel free to mute your video or whatever it's called. Mute, turn off your video. Yeah, so welcome everybody. Thanks for joining us. We have a couple people that are going to share some things about the school. I'm going to start with Principal Showers updates because, like I said, she shared them with us. So she said, thank you so much for the Chipotle fundraiser. That was this past week on Wednesday. We raised $202.34, and that is all going toward our Grow Portland garden. Yes, yay. And so she had the idea of doing a restaurant fundraiser every month, one a month, and just having that be something that we look forward to, and if families are able to take part, they can take part. And we thought that kind of putting those fundraisers along with the garden would be a good idea, because the garden, the cost to us of the garden is it's more than we typically earn in a year with fundraising, because our fundraising efforts just aren't as fruitful as we would like them to be. So being able to have something kind of extra that is fundraising that goes toward the garden is going to help us be able to help out with the garden. So if anybody out there is interested in setting up some garden or some restaurant fundraising efforts, that would be super appreciated. And we would need one for the next couple of months starting in December. So you can reach out to us by emailing Ventura Park PTO at gmail.com if you're interested in coordinating that effort. Holly also wanted to say that conferences are coming up on November 23rd and 24th. We will still have school on the 23rd, but not the 24th. And Fred, is school going to be all day that day?
As far as I know, we're going till 2 o'clock unless, but Holly did say at her staff meeting that things are changing about every 5 minutes. So
that's another 2020 thing, isn't it? Awesome. Okay. So teachers will be contacting families beginning this week to start scheduling, and all conferences, of course, will be virtual. She also wanted to pass along the information that Governor Brown has relaxed some of the metrics that districts need to meet to return to school. The immediate information she wants to be sure we all know is that Multnomah County, in which David Douglas School System is in, is still very far from meeting those metrics as our cases continue to rise. And so there are discussions happening about what a return to school could look like, but it's not super likely that that's going to be happening, particularly in the close future. So if this were to happen, the model would be similar to the hybrid model they had planned for the fall, which means that kids would be at school some days and doing distance learning from home on other days. And they will keep us all apprised of any changes, but as Fred said, everything's changing like nonstop. So, and then she also wanted everybody to know that there are tech support nights happening. They're using Title I funds to offer these nights to families, and it's to provide help in navigating Chromebooks, Google Classroom, and Fuel Ed, because not all of us are super comfortable with the technologies that we're being asked to share with our children. And so only one family attended the first one, so more families attending would be amazing if you need help. There are 3 times coming up, one on November 12th from 4 to 5:30, one on November 19th from 4 to 5:30, and one on December 3rd from 4 to 5:30. And I'm not sure if these are just drop-in. Is that, yeah, they're just drop-in? So
yeah, they're drop-in, and anyone can come in that needs to. And there's also interpreters in Spanish and Russian.
Okay, and are these like, it's not like a lecture, it's more like you can ask a question?
Yep, one-on-one, and kids can come to, and actually Mrs. McDade, the tech support staff at VP, is the one that's there running it, and so she said kids can come. She prefers that, so then the kids and families can work together on it.
Okay, awesome. So we'll try to share that more broadly so more people have that information, because I think that's super helpful. And that's all Holly had to share. So Sophie,
Great,
would
yeah.
you like to share anything?
Thanks, Shannon. Hi, everyone. Yeah, I'm Sophie, the Sun Site Manager at VP. And just an update on what Sun has been doing. Right now, we're kind of signing families up for, there's some gift giving programs around the holiday times, and also some holiday meal signups. So if you ever know of a family, or if you're a family that's in need of that, just let me know. We're also just working on the same things that we've been working on with signing families up for rental support, energy assistance. And then we have a energy weatherization workshop coming up. So this is open for all families, and it'll be November 18th. So that's in a couple weeks. That's on a Wednesday, yeah, November 18th. And they provide a free kit for families and how to just save on energy costs. So that information will be coming out. And yeah, so I think that's kind of, and then we're working with the tech support as well. So yeah, just kind of the same stuff. We are hoping to potentially step into kind of the enrichment and potentially mentoring of students here once we have figured out and kind of supported families with the basic needs aspect to begin with. And then, yeah, so that's just a Sun update.
Cool, awesome, thank you. And then Julia is our new Grow Portland coordinator.
Hi. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that I got to share some updates with you guys today. Yeah, we've had a little bit of kind of turnaround and turnover this year. One of our educators who was going to be teaching at Ventura Park is, she is moving at the end of this month to go be with family for the foreseeable future in like Colorado. So she is leaving us. So I am stepping in, and I get to be with Ventura Park this year, which I'm excited about. I've been with Grow Portland for the past year, and I've been teaching at Menlo Park and Lincoln Park. So I'm connected with David Douglas schools, and I'm kind of always in that area. I pass Ventura Park like every day of my life. So yeah, and I've taught with, I've been here, I've been there a bunch. I'm really excited to be joining you guys. Some kind of updates for all of you. This year is Ventura Park's 3rd year with Grow Portland, yay. It's an interesting year, so we'll see how it all goes. This week, we released kind of our first virtual lessons with Ventura Park teachers. Some garden-based ones, some of them focus on seeds, some of them focus on just signs of fall for the younger kids. So what we're doing is we're making a video about less than 10 minutes of us doing what we would normally do in our classrooms, leading a discussion, and then we are walking through an activity that we have featured as well. So for example, for the little kids, we did like a discussion about fall and your 5 senses, and then there was a little neighborhood scavenger hunt that they could go on to look and smell different things all around their neighborhood. So we just kind of walk through that. So we're doing those every month. We'll be releasing lessons every month. That would normally be on track with the themes that we do each month with our students in person. We're working to maybe try and get some live sessions out in the garden if teachers would ever be interested in like live streaming from the garden and letting kids come out there during a class. And we've been starting to work more directly with the life skill classes at Ventura Park as well. I have some times that I'm going to pop in and say hi and introduce myself in the upcoming week. We've also harvested and donated about 3,500 pounds of produce this summer and fall from all of our gardens in the summer, most of the produce was going to Ventura Park for the summer meals program, which has been really great. Teresa has been amazing and has really helped us out. So we were harvesting from all 10 of our gardens and then delivering it weekly to Teresa over the summer. And then in the fall, we've done kind of bigger harvests now that we're all back and have been delivering them to all of our variety of schools. So Ventura Park got a nice big harvest a couple weeks ago. And then I believe it was last week, we donated a ton of apples, about 300 apples to Ventura Park that we get donated to from Portland Nursery every year. So that went all out. I'm pretty sure that it was this last week. Or it's upcoming. Sorry, I'm getting all confused. I think it's this upcoming week. And those will go out to families during the lunch program as well. They're just bags of 3 apples, and then students can kind of try each apple and talk about what are the differences and how they feel about them. So that's another update. And then the last 2 things is that there's some really beautiful art now installed on the garden gate that was made by students. So that is a really exciting project. And then in December, we are going to be building and installing new garden beds into the garden. They're going to be ADA accessible. So they're going to be taller and yeah, just more accessible. So that's a project that's happening in the later part of December. Jenny gave me the date, December 21st. So very at the end of the year. So that is something to look forward to. Some upgrades.
Awesome. That's wonderful, Julia. We did have one question. The weight of the harvest, did you say it was 3,500 pounds?
Yes.
And that was all of the gardens in our...
Yeah, that's been from all of our gardens, including Ventura Park. Ventura Park has been really productive this summer, which is really great.
Awesome.
Yeah, so that's been a nice project. Makes me feel like I'm doing something productive with my life some days, but
Oh, that's wonderful.
yeah.
I think gardening was something that a lot of us in our homes naturally turned to when the pandemic started. So it just all ties together in this wonderful way.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially because there was food is the most important thing. And yeah, we had so much access to land and space to grow food and fit a need.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much for that, Julia.
Yeah,
We look forward to more. I love the idea of the apple tasting for the kids.
Yeah.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
And that'll come with their lunches. Is that what you said?
Yeah. So I'm forgetting where Ventura Park ended up on our schedule, but yeah, it comes through the lunch program, and it's just a bag, like a little sandwich bag that has 3 apples. Normally, what we do is we do apple tastings actually in class with students every year, because Portland Nursery donates to us every year, but and then students get to, in class, try a bunch of different types of apple and talk about what they taste like, how they feel in their mouth, which ones they prefer, which ones they don't prefer. But obviously we can't do that. So this is kind of the alternative that we thought of for the year. But
awesome.
We're working hopefully to start, we're just trying to think of some other creative ways to connect with families through all of this. Maybe give out bird seed or bird feeders or things like that. It's kind of an idea that we're tinkering with right now.
Awesome.
Those things have a real effect too, because I mean, what you explained that you've done apple tasting in the classroom, Arthur asks every time we eat an apple, he categorizes what kind of apple is this. He knows what kind of apple is his favorite. These things have tied back, to their real life. So that's cool.
That's really great. That's great to hear. Yeah.
And Marianne said that they got their apples last week. It must have been a day our family didn't get the lunches. They haven't done the tasting, but they do have them. So that's awesome.
Good.
Yay. All right. Well, thanks, Julia. We're glad you're a part of the community.
Yeah, me too.
Welcome. And I also want to tell everybody here that the PTO has access to food and other resources. If anybody is in need of anything like that, please let us know and we'll get you connected to the proper people. Again, our email address is venturaparkpto@gmail.com. So like I said earlier too, we raised $202.34 at Chipotle, our Chipotle fundraiser. The mask drive is still going on. So if anybody has a need for masks, for reusable cloth masks, or has some to donate, we have both children's and adult sizes at the school. You can go to the school and ask the school secretaries and they'll be able to give you what you need. The Papa Murphy's card fundraiser is still going on. We still have $15 Papa Murphy's cards. So if you are looking to not make dinner one night, just hit us up and we'll get the cards delivered to the school. We still need more homeroom helpers and neighborhood ambassadors. So if anybody's interested in doing that for their kiddos' classroom, just let us know. And one thing a parent wanted to talk about, and I think this is a really good way to kind of use everybody's minds together, is to define what our goals as the PTO are in distance learning times, because they're a little bit different than they are in regular times. And Danielle and I have talked a lot about what we kind of envision, the PTO is doing in this time, and it's more kind of direct family support and making sure we are doing things to keep us connected. But we would love to hear what everybody else thinks about that. So if anybody has any ideas, you can put them in the chat. You can, share them verbally, or you can email us. Does anybody have any, just to start, and if not, that's fine too. All right. So so if something does come to you after the meeting, please let us know. We'd love to build kind of a, PTO mission statement that really tells how we're feeling about what our goal, goal, mandate, whatever it is during these times.
If the parent who asked the question, if they're comfortable, if they have any primers to give us an idea of kind of where they're coming from to help us get our head space in the right space.
Totally. She's unfortunately, it doesn't look like she was able to make it today. I don't see her on the call. I don't think there's one, but
I mean, I think where I'm at is that there's a billion things. This is a whole new world, and so it's just everything is new. And
right.
so, like, if we could help them best by narrowing our focus just a little bit for this person, yeah. This is wild. This whole thing is wild, and I'm lucky to have good kids, but it's wild.
Yeah, and so fortunate, to have the spaces we have, physically. Yeah, just so what a brief beginning that I wrote up in the agenda is: the main goal of the PTO is to foster and support community building in our elementary school with the help of all community members, which has always been the goal. One of the main things we've done in pre-pandemic times was to make sure that we had events that were accessible to all, particularly events that, people didn't have to buy a ticket in order to attend, that we were able to fundraise by other means that wasn't dependent on somebody's ability to pay money to attend any of our PTO events. Because we're not able to have events and that kind of community building, one of the things that we've talked about in PTO meetings this year, and that Danielle and I talked about, and that Sophie and Danielle and I have talked about, and Holly and Danielle and I have talked about, is just how do we make sure that everybody in the community knows that the PTO is here to support everybody in the community during these times. So one thing we thought about was offering, if people have specific needs, to help them be more, have more success in distance learning, that they could reach out to the PTO, like small grants, like to get those poster boards so their children can have a little space at the dining room table, or things like that. So we did help out with the resource packages everybody got at the beginning of the year. The PTO purchased the whiteboards for everybody, because that was a need that Holly said was a really important thing that would help children, especially with their math work. That wasn't something that the school had the funds for. So things like that, like I said, briefly at the beginning, and I'll talk about it in a little bit too, we don't have super huge success in our fundraising. So we don't, it's not like we're not a school that has a lot of financial resources in order to, put toward these things. But yeah, so just kind of me babbling, but yes, Nathan, thank you.
I was just gonna say, when you talked about mission statement stuff, we wrote out a purpose statement when we got our 501c3. So, I mean, it's pretty general, but I can send that out if that's helpful, or I can just read it. I don't know. Anyway, it just talks about supporting the community. The purpose of the Ventura Park Teacher Organization is to support the staff, faculty, families, and community of Ventura Park Elementary School through organization of community events, supporting and facilitating charitable donations, fundraising, maintaining strong connections between family and staff. We will work to support the educational community system at Ventura Park to maintain a thriving school, which serves as a hub for the neighborhood. So same kind of stuff that you put down. Yeah, just that, it's free for all. I mean, that has to be part of our, as a nonprofit, that has to be part of who we are. So
if you would email that to me, I can copy and paste it into the notes from this meeting. And then when I post that can kind of be a jumping off point too. Okay.
I can do that.
I mean, it still seems perfect, right? I mean, that's what we're trying to do. It's just how we serve that mission statement's a little different. I know this wasn't about whiteboards. You brought up those whiteboards. I thought that was one example of where we did something in the home, thanks to the help of the PTO, that was transformative for distance learning, because it brought back writing and it brought back some of that classroom feel.
Yeah.
And so I didn't want to let that conversation get too far away without calling those out as awesome.
Super, Jeremy. Yes, Fred?
Yeah, and I'll piggyback on Jeremy. Those whiteboards are a great donation. It's just great for quick responses, especially in math. You can see what the kids are thinking. And we wouldn't be able to do that if they didn't all have a whiteboard. So we appreciate that. And I also wanted to take this time to thank you for my individual gift this year. I'm sitting on what I purchased with that money. I needed a tall chair for my home office so I could go between standing. So it's a countertop height. So it's nice to have a decent chair, not stacking pillows on top of a regular chair.
Yay, that's wonderful.
And Shannon, I was also going to add, just kind of as the part of what, I've seen the PTO bring to Ventura Park, and especially in this distance learning we've talked about, but how the families that can make it to these meetings and connect with the PTO presidents, with teachers, with our principal, that those family members then can kind of be, can communicate that out to other families too that maybe aren't able to be here, or, so kind of that family liaison we've talked about a few times, but I see that being a really valuable piece of just sharing the information. And I really liked what that idea of the community hub, or I think neighborhood hub or something like that in the other mission statement. And I can just see that being a really big value to the PTO.
Awesome. Yeah, and I do think, talking about just equity, and kind of, I think being able to have these meetings this way, when our children are doing school this way, it just makes sense for us to meet this way. About a half hour before the meeting started, Stefan was like, yeah, so you have to leave in like 15 minutes for the PTO meeting. And I was like, no, I just have to go in the other room, like he totally wasn't thinking. I think it makes it so it's more accessible for all, which I think is probably one of our goals, or probably should be in our mission statement, just accessibility. The PTO being more accessible to more people.
I would agree with that, Shannon. I think this virtual format, while it's totally different, and in some ways we lose something from being in the same room, I do think it makes it more accessible for people. I think I've long had a burden, I guess, for making sure that we're including folks from other cultures and languages. I don't know that we have summited that hill. I mean, I don't know that that's even we can do that, but working towards that and making connections, it's hard, during a pandemic, but I mean, yeah, so that's something that I've had on my mind and want to try and find ways to bridge that gap. I will say, I do think it's great to share these stories of like Mr. Dobson saying, hey, I used this teacher grant to buy this. Like that gives some really concrete, like, this is what we do, the whiteboards, right? Things like that. Capturing those stories, I think is wonderful. So if we can do more of that, I think that's great.
So kind of this is a really kind of good natural segue into our budget update, because a lot of what we can do has to do with the amount of money the organization has. So what I'm going to tell you is a little off because I just wrote a check to Grow Portland, but when I was typing this, we had $5,581.43 in our account. That doesn't include the $202.34 from Chipotle that is coming in, nor does it include the debit of $1,643 for the garden. So we've got about $4,000 right now. Every year, we write between 25 to 30 teacher grant checks for between $100 and $150, depending on where we are in our funding. And so this year, we were able to write checks for $100 to each of our teaching staff. In a typical year, the PTO pays for certain things that aren't unfortunately happening this year, like the 4th grade Frisbee golf trip, safety patrol field trip to Oaks Park, the end of year carnival, the family game night that we generally have in the spring. We usually do support one day for Teacher Appreciation Week and one day for Classified Appreciation Week. We support the kinder and first grade supplemental planning programs. We supplement contributions for our Feed the Teachers that we typically do during the conferences in both fall and spring. And Grow Portland Garden Support is something that we're just starting. In a typical year, the PTO raises funds through the following. The last couple of years, we've had a pie sale in the spring, and then this year we had one in the fall. Generally speaking, we have a chocolate sale in the winter months. Last year may have been the last year for that. We usually have a raffle at our carnival that we raise funds to help supplement the cost of the carnival. Some families have matching donations through their work, so we get some funds that way, which is really amazing. Sometimes we get direct donations from families or other community members. We get a very small bit from Amazon Smile. So if anybody orders through Amazon, you can add us as your Smile, whatever. Yeah, our Smile thing. Yes, Jeremy?
Doesn't Kroger do something like that as well?
We're signed up for Kroger too. And again, I think that's a very small bit, but yes, you can do something for your Fred Meyer. I'm going to add that too. That's Fred Meyer.
Yeah, and the other nonprofit I was supporting through Smile, I think through years and years of gluttonous Amazon behavior, I only managed to funnel like $27 their way or something. It does add up when you get a lot of people, but it's not a super big amount.
Yeah, it's a small percentage for sure. But I feel like with an organization like ours, any little bit is helpful. And then the restaurant nights, like we talked about, we generally make between $150 and $250 on a restaurant night. So not a lot of money, but like Holly said, if we do one every month, then that might be at least a portion of our garden, our Grow Portland support.
I think the thing that we set up together too, Shannon, the Benevity thing,
Yes.
that helps through Nike, but Benevity is a donation portal that a lot of corporations use.
Okay.
And so it's possible by us getting in there that there are other parents and families at Ventura Park that can now donate to the PTO and get matching from their employers. And I think that that's one place that we can really make the money work. I thought it was pretty awesome that I could give a little money to the PTO and have Nike 100% match that, just double my effort, you know?
Yeah, that was amazing. We just got our first check from that and it was awesome. Thank you.
Good. So I think it'd be good to get the word out that, like, if your employer uses Benevity,
Okay.
please look to see if the PTO is in there. And if you feel like contributing, please take that route because it doubles the money and that's big for us.
That's awesome. We'll definitely put that in the, you know, the email that Holly sends out with all the notes from this meeting. And I'll even put that kind of outside of the notes so people know. Thank you so much, Jeremy. Yeah, so if anybody has any other ideas about fundraising, again, please reach out to us. Especially, I'm thinking things that aren't asking for direct support from our community, because, you know, we've got the few things that we have, I feel like are close to, you know, I don't know, the kind of the upper limits of what our community can support, especially in these times. But things like what Jeremy was talking about, Benevity, other families have, you know, this kind of almost passive, you know, where their company matches donations, that kind of thing. So yeah, if anybody has ideas, please share. Yeah.
I think it was in the last meeting we talked about supporting Grow Portland, and it was in that conversation we talked about some grant writing possibilities. And I don't know, I didn't follow up with Holly on that, and maybe I need to. I probably should just send her an email and say, hey, what are the potentials here? Do we need to go search for some of those? Because that's something that I have not a lot of experience with, but a little bit of experience, and I'm willing to learn. So I'd like to, if we have any connections around grant offerings or things that we might be able to apply for. I know one of the hurdles to grant writing is just finding the stuff and then, you know, making your request match and all that stuff. So anyway, I just throw that out there as another piece of potential fundraiser. Yeah.
Well, and I think I feel like at a meeting maybe last year, Jenny mentioned that she might have some information. So maybe what I'll do, Nathan, is hook you and Julia and Jenny all up in an email.
Sure.
And then we can figure out between all of us, like how to find that information and how to start that.
Yeah. No, that'd be great. Thanks.
Okay, awesome. Thank you for that. It's something that keeps popping up in my head, like, oh, I should send an email to Nathan and Jenny when I'm nowhere near a place where I can send an email.
Sure. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. Yeah, so if anybody, again, you know, as we keep kind of going on, if anybody has any other ideas, reach out to us, please. And then another thing one of our parents wanted to know about is if anybody was interested in her organizing some safe outdoor meetups for the VP community. She was thinking potentially including a clothing swap / clothing drive, particularly for winter coats and warm things for the winter, a school or Ventura Park itself cleanup, and coordinating maybe with you, Julia, on garden cleanup or student art contest. So those are things that, again, if you know, we'll kind of talk with her about that and see how we can best organize that. I know it can't be something that's supported through the school. I don't think the school's, you know, really kind of allowed to support people getting physically together, but parents are allowed to organize that kind of stuff. So yeah, that's all I had. Clothes for families, definitely a need for clothes for families. Okay, Sophie, that's awesome. So maybe the parent and you and us can all kind of, maybe I'll start an email chain with all of us where we can talk about how to best organize a clothing drive.
Hey, Sophie, my wife and I were just talking about donating some coats or something. Would the clothes closet at VP bring it to school?
Yeah,
Is
you can
the
do
way to
that.
go?
Yeah, and either Miss Colson, myself, or Jaquie, we're all working with families that are in need of that. So any of us you could connect with on it. Yeah.
Okay, cool. I'll send you an email.
Yeah. Okay. Sounds good.
And Sophie, is there a need for non-winter coat kind of clothes too? Is there like just a general clothing need?
Yeah, I would say a lot of the families that we're working with right now have their kids are growing, and yeah, I mean all kids are growing fast especially since last spring. So that's been a need that's come up: pants, shirts, coats, kind of everything. Mm-hmm.
And is like in looking for like people who want to donate that kind of stuff, is it best to have them separated by size, or just is that something you do, or
Yeah,
is there
I
an
think like
easier-
if we connect with the parent, we could just figure out the best way to do that. And maybe if it's something we did at VP, then we could just kind of come up with, like, if we did have a clothing drive, and then we could sort and then get it out to families, that kind of thing.
Okay, awesome, thank you. All right, well, that's all I have. Does anybody else have anything they'd like to share, or questions or anything? Yes, Fred?
I'd just like to thank the PTO for all that you do. I've been at Ventura Park for 17 years, and you are the most, hands down, the most involved and supportive PTO I've ever had. So I know that I speak for all the teachers when we're really blessed to have you guys leading the way.
Well, thank you. We feel really lucky to have all of you as our teachers and staff too. We feel like we have a great community here.
Yeah,
Definitely unique.
I would say in response to that, Mr. Dobson, please relate back to your colleagues and Ms. Shower and everybody that we appreciate the patience and work that it takes to do distance learning. Because I think, I'm not a teacher, but I think you're kind of taking it from all sides in multiple ways. So I appreciate your work on all those fronts.
I appreciate that, Nathan. It's kind of interesting. You wouldn't think sitting in front of a computer all day would be intense, but it is. It's like you're like 3:30, 4 o'clock. You're like, whew, I need to take a break from this screen, So yeah, I appreciate that. And it's interesting. The behavior management is not as challenging on the computer as it is in person, but some of the other aspects of the job are, like effective planning, differentiation, meeting all your students' needs. And so it's it's kind of a give and take, but we're making the best of it. And I'm very fortunate. I have a great group of students, and so they've just made it a lot easier. And it's interesting the way you connect on a different level, almost a little more personal through distance learning than you might in the classroom. It's kind of strange for me to say, but because there's just so much more verbal interaction, I think, in just different ways. So it's been really nice.
Interesting. Well, we appreciate you, because even just helping mine with theirs, sometimes I'm like, I don't want to do this.
And it's great when kids come to my office hours, because then it's, you can work one-on-one and, really kind of hopefully bridge that gap. Or when you get, like I was working with this little student named Abby the other day, and she was really struggling with multiplying fractions by a whole number. And then we worked on a few problems together, and she's like, well, that's just like doing it to regular numbers. And I was like, yeah, it's no different. It's just you're dealing with smaller quantities. So it's pretty cool.
Nice. And are you finding that a lot of students are doing the office hours?
It's like the same group of 5 or 6, and then some pop in and get their question answered, and then they go back to independent. But I've got a little core group that we hang out together from 3 o'clock.
That's awesome.
Work on stuff.
Math club.
Yeah, or whatever we need to focus on. So I think they appreciate the connection too.
Yeah, that's something as a parent I've struggled with, is my children's only social interaction really is online, and school all day is online. So, they want to play with their friends in the evenings and the afternoons. So we always try to give a couple hours break between the two, but yeah.
Yeah, it'd be interesting, just as this isn't over to the teachers as much, but just amongst the parents as the rains come in and the colder weather comes in, how we're going to mentally survive. We've all got different degrees of comfort in interacting with social spaces.
Yeah.
For my family, we're pretty closed down.
Yeah, we
So
are.
just staying sane and keeping our kids sane and not becoming, nothing wrong with hobbits. I love hobbits, but not becoming hobbits.
Yeah. And being pleasant, staying pleasant.
Yeah. Yes, yes.
Jeremy, and to the other families, one thing we've been talking on a few teams at VP about is getting out more hands-on activities for kids, whether that be from Sun or from teachers working together. Is that something that the parents on the call feel would be helpful and needed? Or
Yes.
okay.
Yeah, I
I
think
mean, yes, it would be helpful. Sophie, that made me think about, I'll confess I was skeptical when we switched over, and I know this wasn't your decision, but when we switched over platforms to Fuel Ed, like right after the beginning of school. But I would say that has turned out to be really good for, at least for our kindergartner, because it has given her some hands-on stuff to be able to manipulate and deal with, and some connection that has really helped. I'm sure that's not everybody's experience, but at least for us, that has been really good.
Yeah.
I would, I'm speaking for Amy a little bit, who's out kickboxing right now in a parking lot somewhere in the cold. She did the pumpkin social for Alma's grade. And I think the main challenge was just simply that the different families that show up don't all necessarily have the same comfort levels with the pandemic. And so you wind up with a strange dynamic. And so I just think as we do these events, we have to be very, very clear what the base level expectations are for being there, so that it's non-debatable and everybody can feel comfortable. And we kind of have to reach to the farthest probably level of concern. For the people who are comfortable showing up but still want to stay 6 feet apart, we shouldn't have tables where kids can come up and handle everything. You know, there should be some guidance to, so there's just some things we have to consider.
Yeah.
But we got to figure out how to do this. I mean, if we're having these same meetings next fall where we're still in some form of isolation, we will have lost a lot of time. And so I think finding the safe path for this is important.
Yeah.
We're apprehensive. I'll admit that, but we know we can't just stay in this pattern forever.
Yeah, definitely. All right. Well, this has been a really good meeting, everybody. Thank you so much. We will get the notes shared next week. And Jeremy, I'll make sure to, highlight Benevity and for people to look into whether their companies take advantage of that. And I will send those emails hooking different groups of people up for different things. But yeah, thank you, everybody.
And even if they don't support Benevity, sorry, Shannon, even if they don't support Benevity, they may be able to get matching set up through their employer because we are a registered nonprofit.
Okay.
And as there was, I don't know how your side of that deal was, but my side was very easy. I just submitted a request, and then eventually I got a notification back that it was done, and I went and donated money, and Nike matched it. It was like, yeah.
It was
very
super
easy
to set up, just kind of connecting our bank account and, sharing things. Did not take long at all. Was
okay, great. So there's probably other platforms like that.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah, I don't know who Kaiser works with, but I think you just get a check, right?
You just get a check, yeah, which is so awesome. And I think there's another family that's doing that too.
Yeah, I believe there's so yeah, Jeremy's exactly right. From my experience, it's really easy. And so have people, the more we can urge people to check with their employers, because there are a lot of companies that do some sort of outreach, kind of community outreach like that. So anyway, just to second that.
And it's really helpful, for us, like I said, like I've been saying this whole call, like we have a really hard time fundraising, in ways that other communities have an easier time. So this is more kind of passive income for us. It's like, they're like little bonuses that we can you know, apply to Grow Portland or, you know, to teachers grants and that kind of thing. So it's awesome. Okay.
I also will add, sorry, I keep tagging onto this. The
Nope.
platform that Nike uses, if you volunteer your time and then you report your volunteer time back to Benevity, they give you money in your account to thank you for your volunteer time, which you can then donate to organizations. So just by giving your time, you get money that you can give to organizations. So
That's
these
wonderful.
platforms are awesome.
Yeah. That's awesome. Thank you, Jeremy. Formal. Yeah, Severiano, I'd be happy to share, you know, a letter talking, you know, just a letter that kind of shares our nonprofit number. Yeah, totally. Email, if you can, email us at Ventura Park PTO at gmail.com. So somebody asked if there was a formal letter or document we can write up for employers. You know, I think we'd be happy to do that. I can coordinate with Nathan too and see if there's a specific way to do that.
Yeah.
I think generally that's evidence of the 501c3 status, partnered with a receipt for the donation.
Okay.
Yeah, different companies or organizations will ask for different things.
Okay.
When I had to set up Ventura Park through I forget what our giving platform is through Kaiser, but they just wanted the 501c3 and an address,
Okay.
and then they did everything else. So it might depend on what is needed. So yeah, just let us know and we can get you the number or maybe a more official document write something up, things like that.
Awesome. Awesome. Okay. All right, everybody. So as always, we're available, you know, on Facebook if you're a Facebooker in the Facebook group or via email. And thank you all for spending part of your Saturday with us, and hope everybody enjoys the rest of your weekend.
Yeah, I just want to say, at first I was skeptical of the Saturday morning time, but now I see that it's wise to have these varied times. And thank you for providing more times for more people to get there. I have more flexibility than most. So
yeah. So real quickly, do you think that maybe we should try to do some on Wednesday nights and some on Saturday mornings?
I do. I think
Okay.
you'll get different people at different times. I mean, I know that you'll lose out on some core people, but that's fine.
Yeah. It's nice to have, I feel like it's really important to have different voices.
I do too.
Yeah.
The more people we can get in and the more people we can get involved and get the word out.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah, I appreciated the Saturday time. For some reason, I always forget about the Wednesday one.
Well, you're probably like eating dinner and trying to stay
Yeah,
on your screen
cooking
at
or
that
something.
time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Not sure what else you're doing on Wednesdays, Mr. Dobbs.
I know.
Oh, not much.
All right. Okay. Well, thank you, everybody. Good to see y'all.
Thanks, Janet.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for welcoming
Enjoy
me.
your Saturday and weekend.
Thanks,
Thank
Julia.
you.
Thanks, Julia.
All right. Bye.